learned, we attended a lot of trainings and we gave a lot of trainings, and there are multiple ways to do that. One thing that has been really, really effective and that has a specific application to your kind of work, that is consultative selling skills. So when you sell, there are various ways that you sell, but in your particular profession, something that we call the consultative selling is the best approach. And I want to take you through today what are the exact steps that consultative selling skills or consultative selling actually has, and how you can use those steps or those that method in your approach when you talk to HNIs. There is nothing else that works with HNIs or rich people or high net worth individuals. And the simple reason is that these are the people who have what you need. They have the money that you need. And you cannot push them. You cannot, you cannot run after them. You have to really consult. You have to really advise. And if your sales approach is still like I am an agent of a particular mutual fund or a particular insurance or a particular stock, and this is my product, and I believe in this stock, and I want to push that stock to you and your portfolio, that approach does not work. Okay. So if you have pen and paper, great. If you do not have pen and paper, please take like a notepad like this, because you're going to make a lot of notes today. Uh, this is, of course, recorded, so you can come back to this video later on, but why to waste time? If you can make notes, it is good. First and the most important, what is consultative selling? So there are two approaches that people have when sales in a larger perspective is, I want you to do something. That's what sales is, right? I want you to take a decision. I want you to feel certain way. I have an idea, I have a product, I have a solution that I want you to give, and I want you to take that from me. That's simple. What persuasive communication and sales is all about. Now, the question is certainly that you cannot force people. Ultimately, the decision to open their wallet and give the money is going to be of the customers, and they have to do it willingly. Okay. So the question that becomes, why would somebody give their hard-earned money to you who's unknown and take risk with their money? Why would they do that? So you have to work with them, understand their life, their goals, and find out what problems they are trying to solve in their life, and then reverse engineer from there. And if your product or your solution or your approach is useful, great. If not, forget about it. Let me give an example of what I'm talking about here. Let's say you have a stomach ache and you feel bad, and you go to a doctor and say, hey, doctor, I have a stomach ache, and do something. Doctor listens to you and says, great, no problem. Here is the medicine, go take it, and you'll be fine. This is one way. The another situation can be you go to a doctor with the same stomach ache, and the doctor says, all right, sit down, tell me, what is the problem? Where exactly is the ache? For how long you've been had it? What did you eat? How are you feeling? Did you get some tests? Do you have some disease that you had earlier? And after asking all these questions, makes you lay down on a stretcher, tests your stomach and everything, and then says, I think we need to conduct some tests. And then they recommend of tests. You get the test done, test report comes in, doctor looks at those test reports and say, great, here is the prescription, go take it. And 4 days later or 5 days later, come back to me again, we'll see where it goes. Tell me honestly, which doctor would you trust more? First one or the second one?
Second one.
No brainer, right? Second one, absolutely. The first doctor would charge, let's say, 200 rupees for the consultation, but the second doctor charges 1500 for one consultation. Tell me which one would you still prefer?
The second one.
Second one. See, your answer tells you and me that it's not about money. There are things which are so important for us that we do not care about how expensive they are. We do not take risk with our health. We do not take risk with our family. We do not take risk with our money. And at times I've seen people take risk with their health. They do not work out. They do not eat well. They do not see what they're eating and all that. At times I've also seen people taking risk with their kids and their families also. They send them to wrong schools. They allow them to watch mobile. They allow them to read bad magazines. They allow them to have bad friends and all that. But I've never seen people being casual, less responsible with their money. They don't spend money like just like that. They ask you hundreds of questions, whether it's about investment, where it's going, who's the people, how safe is it, and stuff like that. So if you talk in that context, what you're asking somebody to do is the most important thing in their life. It is something that they put on the highest priority more than their health, more than their family, more than everything else. So when you ask them to somebody to give their money to you have to be a doctor. You cannot be a chemist or you cannot be a Jola Chap doctor, wherein you go with a solution that I believe this is the right mutual fund and here are the benefits of the mutual fund. The person does not trust you. Now, this is a very different approach, and this second approach that I talked about, the doctor's approach, is the consultative selling. Okay, why it is important? We just talked about it. I'm going to take you through a process how to actually do that while you are talking to somebody. Okay, there are various ways in pre-sales preparation, after sales stuff like that, the branding approach, research, and all that. But I'm going to focus today on when you actually sit in front of somebody, how do you actually do that? So various sales models are there, but my favorite and most useful in your case is something that we call ODPEC. It says ODPEC. Okay, ODPEC, ODPEC. Now, ODPEC basically stands for O stands for opening. That's opening of the conversation. D stands for developing the need. And P stands for presenting the solution. And E stands for eliminating doubts. And C stands for closing. All right. I'm going to write this in the chat. So ODPEC is basically opening the call. Focus on the word that I'm using here, developing the need. It's not finding a need. It's developing the need. What does it mean? I'll explain in a bit. The second part or the next is P, which stands for presenting the solution. Focus on the fact that I'm writing solution. I'm not talking about product or anything that you're selling. And then eliminating the doubts. And last, of course, closing. Okay. Now, when you talk, and this can be a telephonic conversation also, is this can be a one-to-one conversation. Of course, one-to-one conversation, it becomes easier because you have a body language, you have a rapport building, you're sitting in somebody's home, and there are other things that you can talk. But even if you teach this to your sales teams, and if you talk to somebody on phone, make sure that the ODPEC happens very clearly. There are two parts of it which are extremely important, which is developing the need and presenting the solution. If you do developing the need and presenting the solution right, everything, you will not have any doubts. Closing will happen very, very naturally. So I'm going to skip opening, but you can write if you want to. I will give you a document later on which explains everything in bits, so you can copy, you can use it, you can practice in your own approach, and then you can give it to your teams also. But most importantly, you should be using it in your thing. Now, opening basically, you are telling them purpose of the call. Now, people think opening is introducing yourself. No, opening is not introducing yourself. Opening is the purpose of the call. Because who you are how good you are, I will find out only if I'm willing to talk to you. The first and the most important question when you start a conversation with somebody is the person's mind is asking whether I want to give this person 10 minutes, 1 minute, or 1 hour. Whatever time you're asking me, I'm giving that to you. My mind is constantly asking me a question, should I give you that much time? And the high value the client, the higher value the client, the more important this question becomes. Their time is critical, their time is crucial, and they get approached by people like you every day. You can only give them a solution or do a diagnosis or impress by your credentials or whatever if they give you time, right? If they don't give you time, there is no way you can do anything. So what should be the most important part of your conversation opening? And the purpose of the opening is to get more time. I take this example when I talk to younger people, but I think it's all guys here today, so it's also very relevant. Let's say you see a wonderful woman, beautiful girl, and you want to impress her. You would need more opportunities from her. So when you first approach that person, you don't ask, "Hey, let's be girlfriend, boyfriend, and let's get married." You don't do that, right? The first instance is somehow get the phone number so that you can talk again. Somehow get the Instagram account so that you can talk again. So this is exactly the thing. The first opening, the objective is so that the person can give you more time. How do you do that? The most important thing that you communicate in less than 30 seconds. Try in 10 seconds, but less than 30 seconds. Give them the purpose of the conversation, why they should give you time. And the purpose of the conversation cannot be from your perspective. I want to talk about this. I want to sell you this. I want to do this. Don't say it. Purpose of the conversation is what's in it for them. This is another golden word that you should write. I call it with me. So everybody, remember this, everybody, when you talk to them, is constantly asking this question. What's in it for me? All right? What's in it for me? With me. And this should be addressed in first 30 seconds. I will leave it to you to answer this, what exactly, but I've given you enough in the previous discussions wherein with me is clearly defined what you can do for them. When you talk to them, there are a couple of more things that people often forget. Uh, you need to remember. So with me, purpose of the call, what the person is going to get out of it. Then come to the developing part, developing the need, developing the solution part. Now, developing need is very important one. It has 4 basic parts to it. The job of a good salesperson is to identify a need and then convert that small need into a bigger need and a stronger need. People spend money on stronger needs when they have the pain is big enough. And I can give you so many examples, but let's stick to the medical one. You have a stomach ache, you don't go to the doctor immediately. You first try some home remedies. Garam pani pee lo, ye sab gol kha lo, eno le lo, sleep, things like that. But when the pain is not still going, then you probably go and take a medicine from the chemist, whatever the medicine that people use. If it still does not go, then you go to a doctor. And then the doctor suggests you test and all that, and then still the pain does not go. They've given 5 days prescription, you've taken the medicine, still the pain does not go. Then if the doctor says, oh, we need to do a surgery. Now, the only reason you will agree to a surgery is when the pain is big enough, strong enough. Otherwise, you just say, let me try some medicine, let me do something else now. When you're talking to somebody, you're asking them to give their money to you and pay you to manage it. You're asking them to take a big risk. You have to have a very strong reason for them to do so. If there is no strong reason for them to do so, there is no reason they'll not give you the money. Remember that. So the first and the most important part of a conversation, and this is about 80% of the conversation, and you'll be surprised to know that how much time you should spend on developing the need. 70% of the time at least should be spent on developing the need, converting whatever the reason, whatever the goal that they have, whatever the need that they have into a strong enough need so that they feel desperate that you're the right guy. And if I do not give my money to you, I'm going to lose something or I will not achieve the goals that I want to achieve. You need to make them desperate. And how do you do that? Developing the need. How do you actually convert the weak need into a strong need? There are 4 types of questions. Developing the need does not happen by telling them what to do. Remember that. Selling is not telling. You should write it somewhere else. Make it on a piece of paper, big, bold letters, and write it. Selling is not telling. So what is selling? Selling is asking. Your job is to make people think. And when they think, then they take decisions. When they think, they become emotional. And then when they think, then they give you the money. How do you make them think? You make them think by asking questions. Remember, when teacher tells you, you don't think. But when the exams happen, then you try to think and use your brain. So think is important. You make them think by asking questions. How do you ask the question? What kind of questions? I'll give you a formula. Oh, write down a word, BSEA. There are 4 types of questions that you should always be asking. And after this training today, the exercise is going to be there with you, and you're going to come back with the task that I'm giving you. So BSEA. What is BSEA? First type of questions, basic questions. B stands for basic questions. What are basic questions? When you go for financial planning, there are 2 very important things that you must understand. Where they are today, where they want to go. As simple as that. Okay. Now, the answer to this question basically depends on what kind of person you're talking to. If you're talking to somebody who's young and has a lower income strata, they will tell you what age, what money they're making, what investments that they have. You generally do that. But when you ask them what are their goals, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years down the line, they will tell you the goals like kids' education, maybe kids' health, insurance, maybe buy a car, maybe buy a home, these kind of aspirations, goals that a lower income person has. And a middle income person generally has wealth creation. I want to retire at 50. I want to have a passive income, that kind of goal. What kind of goals do you think an HNI would have? Their insurance is taken care of. They have invested somewhere here and there. They have a house, they have a car. So average income people's goals are taken care of. If you approach that HNI thinking that they will also have the similar kind of goals and aspirations, you will completely mismatch their aspirations and goals. And that is the reason I'm also saying that selling is not telling. You don't tell them what to buy. Because what to buy depends on what their goals are. And that is why I've been saying from the beginning that the kind of wealth advisory that you're doing at the moment is not sufficient for the HNIs. Because what you do is average, safe, return kind of investment vehicles. This is not what an HNI want. So the specific questions, where they are, where they want to go. Really dig in deeper. What are their goals from 10 years, 20 years? Always go for 10, 20 years of horizon. Never go for 5 years, 2 years, 3 years. There is nothing much that substantial that you can offer in 5, 10 years. Also, I say that do not talk about 5 years, 10 years, because it will not make them emotional. And trust me, decision making is an emotional thing. We use logic to justify emotions, but emotions are the reasons people take decisions, no matter what decisions. And I'm talking about science here. Okay, this is science and psychology. This is not pure gyan. So unless you talk about something beyond ordinary and average, you don't connect the emotions of the investor. And unless you connect the emotions, there is nothing else that you can do. And also, uh, for the fact that you don't get the horizon like 10 years, 15 years, you can't strategize, you can't plan anything, right? Uh, Basically, that would also mean that you'll not make any money. So you have to go 15 year, 20 years horizon. And generally, I'll tell you, when you talk to an HNI, in the horizon of 15, 20 years, 10 years rather, their goals would be legacy and generational wealth. That's it. That's all. That's what people care about. I'm 40, 45 at the moment. What do I want to do in 15 years? I want to create a legacy for myself so that people know me, people give me respect. I've created something that the world is using after I'm gone. And I've created some generational wealth for my kids, for my family, so that they live a very good and respectful life. After a while, you see, well, the money loses its value beyond the respect or impacting the world. And if you're not talking that language to an HNI, you're not matching their wavelength. So 15, 20 years horizons, ask them what are they planning for? What is the end goal here? And I'm also telling you the answers most likely you're going to get out of it. You're going to get, I want to create a legacy. If they don't think legacy, you nudge them in that direction that they should think legacy. You nudge them in the direction wherein they should think generational wealth. Okay, so this is specific. Now, this is basic questions and then specific questions. Now, specific S stands for, remember, come back to the BSEA part. So, basic questions and S stands for specific questions. Specific questions are just answered. What exactly their current problems are and what exactly the current goals are. So, goals I've already answered: wealth creation and generational wealth creation and legacy. Then you ask now this is going to be very interesting now. The next questions are that whatever you are doing today, whatever strategies are you using today, ask them this: whatever you're doing, whatever you're using, do you think with confidence that you're going to achieve that goal with this kind of strategy? A simple question. Okay, a simple question. Do you think that with the current strategy, current investments that you're doing, you will be able to achieve those goals of yours? Question number one. Question number two: what will have to change in your current strategy, current approach, so that you can achieve those goals? Now, you will realize they will not have the answers to these questions. And that's the whole point. You make them think in the right direction and you let them speechless. They don't have answers. They think, I don't know, maybe I'll have to ask. And because you have asked those questions, now your image, all of a sudden, your credibility, all of a sudden has become very important in front of them. They see you as somebody who might be having the answers. And next step is proposing a solution, but you don't have to jump to the proposing solution yet. Okay, now you identified a big need, you identified a specific problem that they want to go somewhere and they know that their current strategies are not sufficient and they're not going to take them to that goal. But are they hungry enough for a solution? They know there is a problem. They know there is something wrong with their approach, but is the problem big enough for them to give you their money, trust you, change their advisor, or make that decision of investing with you? No, not yet. You have to make that realization big enough and strong enough in their mind so that they say, tell me what I can do. Tell me how you can help me. So the next step is going to be E out of this BSEA. E stands for effect questions. Okay. So what basically effect questions mean is that you show them the effect of their action and inaction. How I call it? Simple. So let's say you are here and you're going to go there, and you continue doing whatever you're doing. You don't take any different action. What are going to be the risks? What are going to be the losses? What are going to be the pains if you continue your approach? Ask a very specific question. That's the gain theory. That's the pain theory that I use. I have a problem today. I don't fix it. I eat the same I'm eating. I don't work out. I continue my lifestyle. 15 years from now, what will happen? Ask this. And this is the pain I'm talking about. Make them imagine 15 years from now, 20 years from now, what their life is going to be. You'll not have the legacy. You'll not have the generational wealth. You'll be okayish. Inflation will eat out, taxation will eat out, your health will change. Most of the things will remain same, but it will not be generational wealth. It will not be a legacy wealth. How would you feel about that? That is the golden question here. Ask them this. If you don't do anything today, the situation continues, how will you feel about that situation? That's pain theory. Then ask another question. Let us say you change your investment strategy today. You invest in different vehicles, you change your geographies, you change your investment topics or the money or whatever, you save taxes and stuff like that. And 15 years from now, with that approach, you have reached your goal. You have created a generational wealth. You have created your legacy. How would you feel about that? Would you be proud of yourself? Would your family be proud of yourself? Would you look back at the age of 70 and thank yourself for taking that right decision? How important is that for you? You know, I ask this question a lot of times to people when they say, "Oh, I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to do that." And I ask them question, how important is that for you? It's a kind of wishful thinking, or you really, really want to do it? For example, all of you, and I want to ask this question to all of you. You came into this program, you paid the money, you're giving your time, but you're not taking the actions that you must take. So you got to ask yourself a question when you go back today. It's like, do I really want to be that person that I told Sam's team in the beginning that I want to be? I want to have HNIs, I want to have this, and I want to, grow my business 4x. Do I really want that, or it's a wishful thinking? Because wishful thinking is easy, right? At times people pay money also for that. You paid money. But the real test is that how hard do you want it? Do you really want that or not? Comes when your actions live up to your goals. You are asking this investor to take action now. You really need to hammer this down very, very hard that I'm sorry, but I've spoken to so many HNIs. Their life is comfortable enough. They say, I want to create a generational wealth. They say, I want to leave a legacy of myself, but their actions do not match. So I want to ask you, Mr. Investor, how important is that for you? If nothing changes, you go 15 years from now, or you change something, how's the difference in those two situations? Now, this is an effect question. I really want you to spend time on effect questions because they generate the real emotions out of somebody. They test the gravity of whether they are really committed to this or not. And consultation is all about that. If you've done it right, A stands for agreement that, okay, we gotta be doing something. Simple. They say, yep, I'm committed. I want to do this. Great. That is agreement. Agreement to a solution. I want to do something. And that something is going to be your P, which is presenting the solution. Remember, I spent so much time on D, developing the need, because consultation is all about identifying the right need, identifying the motivations behind it, identifying how desperately those solutions people are seeking. Really, really, are they in it or not? Once that is done, solution is just an easy peasy thing. If you do the developing the need part correct, you will find that 7 out of 10 cases, the investor will say, so what should I do? They will ask you how I can change that. Job done, well done. 70% closed already. When somebody is asking you what to do and how to do it, your job is done. Then you present the solution, and whatever the solution that based on your intelligence and knowledge is right, you create a portfolio for them. You give them an alternative investment opportunities, private equity, maybe real estate, maybe don't do India, maybe do Dubai or Abu Dhabi because taxations are different, stuff like that. The solution is up to you. I'm not going to tell you what you suggest them. It's up to you. But that is the process, and obviously they will have questions after this. How does that work and all that. So eliminating the doubts, they will have questions. E stands for eliminating doubt. I'm going back to the ODPEC. So opening, developing the need, presenting the solution, and then eliminating the doubts, and closing definitely happens when you sign the contract and check and everything. Now, there is one thing that I still want to talk about in presenting the solution, how you present the solution. I've seen a lot of people talking about the details of the solution, but there is a different way that you should be approaching this. Let's take an example. You go and buy a car, and in a showroom, the car salesperson tells you that this car that we've gotten, it's got the K series new engine, it has 1,000 cc motor in it, it has a switch ignition technology, and this is this and that. Would you buy that? No, because the reason people buy a car is not because of these technical jargons. I only care about three things. I'm an Indian. I care about three things when I buy a car. The number one, when I take this car to my mohalla, to my relatives, to my friends, will they look back and say, wow, what a gari, what a car? That's so the design, the look, that is more important for me. The second thing is when I actually sit down inside the car, hold the steering wheel, push the pedal, and zoom, that sound, the feel of driving the car. That's why people take test drives, right? Is that something good for me? Do I feel that I'm driving a 25 lakh rupees car, 40 lakh rupees car, or 50 lakh rupees car? Do I feel that? And third, of course, we are Indians, we talk about mileage, that every time when I maintenance and mileage, is that going to cost a ton of money from my pocket? These are the reasons. So these are the reasons which I buy a car for. What happens under the hood, under the bonnet, I really don't care. I don't understand that. I don't care. Uh, Let me give you examples to really make you understand that this is the right approach and this is what happens. Look at the ads of every car ever sold. Imagine the advertisements that you've seen. How many times they talk about the engine capacity and stuff like that? Have you seen BMW talking about engine capacity and the technology that they use? Never. The ad is generally a car going in a area, and then their families coming out of it, and they're laughing, they're happy, and the woman comes out with the champagne, people are looking them and people are admiring. It's a feeling. Look at the insurance ads. It's a feeling. Anything which is luxury, and by the way, you're selling luxury, you're selling to HNI people, so you're selling something which is luxury, uh, will not be sold on features of the product, the details of the product. So there is a technique that people use, and you should be using it. When you explain something, there's a technique called FAB: features, advantages, benefits. I'm sure you've heard that. Let me take that example. How do you do that? Features is what it has. When you invest, how much percentage of return, taxation benefits, and all of that. That's the feature of your investment solution. I've seen investment consultants, advisors all my life. 98% of them always talk about the features. This percentage, this percentage, this percentage, this taxation, this return, that return. This is all what features are about. People don't buy features, they buy benefits. Benefit is what it can do for me. So write it down somewhere. What it can do for me. How does it change my life? And to answer that, you have to give them an example. So what is an example? You want to talk about 2% interest rate of return difference. Don't talk about 2% rate of return different. Talk about with this compounding over 15 years time, you will be having an extra $1 million in your account. And that extra $1 million basically can be the seed capital for your legacy trust. And that trust with that extra $1 million then can teach thousands of kids, and that is going to be your legacy. So don't talk about this 2% different of return. That doesn't make sense. What it can do for the customer over a long period of time, and then connect that with the goal that you initially discovered. Remember the legacy or the wealth generation, that extra thing. So I can give another example. For example, you are saying, use my strategy, I'll save some tax there and I'll give better returns, and there will be difference of 1.5%, let's say. Now calculate that 1.5 with 15 years goal horizon, 20 years goal horizon, that whatever you're doing, and you show that maybe extra $1 million, 4 crore, 5 crore का आपने extra जो benefit दिखाया है. Now show that 5.5 crore rupees can be the seed capital for your son's startup. If you want him to become an entrepreneur, that extra money you give him to start a business. With that, this person will be a wealthy person, will build his own company, and will remember you forever. That is now connected to the generational wealth thing. Or maybe you can buy a farmland in some places. Cheaper, extra. So give those benefits with examples that are connected with their initial goals. That is the language if you use rather than the percentages, rather than the nitty-gritties, then you will create an impact. So when you present a solution, don't talk about the features, talk about the benefits. I've just given you 2 examples what benefits actually. Benefits is what it can do for me, how it changes my life. These 2 specific questions, and give real examples into the future connecting with their goals that you talked about. All right. If you're able to do this conversation, you will have very, very different outcomes. I guarantee that. The question is now, if tomorrow you speak to an HNI, will you be able to use this flow with confidence? Answer is no. And it does not matter how old are you. In fact, it's going to be more difficult for somebody who's older. There's a saying, "Pakke ghade pe mitti nahi chadti." You've done a particular approach for 10 years, 15 years with thousands of customers. You are used to it. You're comfortable with that. It is going to change a lot of work for you to change that. But change is the only constant in life. If you don't change, you don't grow. So if you want to grow, you need to change. And how do you change that? You start practicing. You think that you are now 17-year-old and you have to learn from the beginning once again. It's fun also. So I'm going to give you a couple of examples. Whatever the solutions that you are doing or not doing, forget about all those solutions. Think about an HNI. Somebody has having 20 crore, 50 crore rupees of worth of investment. Imagine that person, and you are talking to that person. What I want you to do is write down the entire script the way I just explained on a piece of paper, and do not type, write with a pen. And I have a logic for that. I have a reason for that. When you write something, you're imagining about it. When you imagine something, the memories are created, the pictures are created. The chances of you using that in a real life scenario is 10x better if you've gone through that process. Okay. So open this video, you make notes, take a pen and paper, give yourself 1 hour whenever you are sitting alone, have your coffee ready, or beer or wine or this whiskey, whatever you enjoy the most. Start writing. Imagine that HNI sitting in front of you in a hotel lobby, maybe in your office, maybe in their office. Imagine yourself having that conversation. And you're having this conversation on a piece of paper. You're writing the opening, the purpose of the call, you're writing the developing the need, BSEA, all these questions that I talked about. You're asking them question. Write a question and then imagine person answering that question to you. Okay, you can role play the entire scenario. It's going to take about an hour, but it's going to be a beautiful exercise. And when you have written all of that, you've seen what you're talking, what they're responding, how you're responding, then you practice that. You do that over a week, 3, 4, 5 times, whenever you get a time, whenever you do it, sit down, do the same activity. The another way you can do it after you've written, stand in front of a mirror, do a role play with yourself. Have your senior guy, maybe your wife, maybe your daughter or son, make them sit. Tell them that you are the H9 and I'm going to talk to you. And here's I'm going to talk to you. Do this practice. Okay. I don't want to take any more time to explain the learning levels, but the learning happens with practice. Okay. Uh, that's it.